There comes a point in life when you realize that waiting will not save you. You can spend years telling yourself that tomorrow is the day, that next week you will start, that one day you will feel ready. But the truth is simple and sharp: readiness never comes. Motivation will not knock on your door like a visitor. Clarity does not arrive before you take action. The energy you are waiting for is created only after you begin. Until then, it is all delay, all hesitation, all empty promises you make to yourself. And every day that passes without action slowly steals something from you: your time, your trust in yourself, and the chance to grow into who you could be. Nothing changes by accident. Nothing moves forward until you decide to move. Most people think too much and do too little. They want life to be easier, but they don't take the steps to make it so. They imagine a better future, but they never fight for it in the present. And they disguise their fear with excuses. Excuses about not having enough time, about needing more energy, about waiting until the conditions are perfect. But perfect conditions never arrive. Life will always be messy, uncertain, uncomfortable, and if you keep waiting for things to calm down, you will wait forever. That is why the people who truly move ahead are the ones who act before they feel ready. They take the first step even when it feels awkward, even when they doubt themselves, even when their heart is racing with fear, because they know that once you move, momentum begins to build. The second step becomes easier. The third feels natural, and slowly, you start to feel stronger than you imagined. But action doesn't start with grand gestures. It begins with honesty. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and admit the truth. You have been standing in your own way. It is not the weather, not your boss, not your friends, not your parents. It is you. You are the one who has been putting things off, who has been repeating the same excuses, who has been waiting for someone else to push you. And as long as you keep lying to yourself, nothing will ever change. Change begins the moment you get tired of your own excuses. The moment you hear yourself repeat the same promise one too many times, and you finally go quiet and say, "Enough." That moment of truth is the turning point. It is where self-respect starts to grow, because you are no longer willing to keep breaking promises to yourself. Excuses are comfortable, but they are costly. They cost you your progress. They cost you your potential. They cost you years that you will never get back. Excuses don't pause time. They don't shield you from the consequences of inaction. They simply make you feel a little better while your future slips away. That realization can feel painful, but it is also powerful. Because once you admit that you are the problem, you also see clearly that you are the solution. You hold the key to change. The hardest moment is not the 5th step or the 10th. The hardest moment is the first one. It is the moment when everything in you says, "Not today. I'm tired. I'll do it later. I'll wait until I feel better." That is the voice of resistance, the lazy voice in your head that always tries to protect you from discomfort. And the only way to defeat it is to act before it takes control. You cannot debate with it because it will always find an argument. You cannot wait for it to go away because it never does. You must override it. You must move anyway. That is where strength is built. That is how discipline grows roots inside you. Think about it: the people you admire, the people who inspire you, they do not succeed because they always felt motivated. They succeed because they trained themselves to move when motivation was nowhere to be found. They work when it's cold, when they are tired, when no one is cheering, when no one even notices. They act because they made a decision and they keep it. That is what separates the doers from the dreamers. Every opportunity you miss because you hesitated leaves a mark. Every time you delay, you teach yourself that your words mean nothing. You say you'll start, and then you don't. You say you'll change, and then you wait. And little by little, you stop trusting yourself. That lack of self-trust is heavy. It makes you doubt even when you don't need to. It makes you shrink away from chances that could change your life. But the good news is that self-trust can be rebuilt. Every time you act when you don't feel like it, you are repairing the bridge between your words and your actions. You are proving to yourself that you can be trusted again, and that kind of confidence cannot be faked, it must be earned. Fear will always be there. Doubt will always whisper in your mind. But fear is not a stop sign. Doubt is not a wall. They are signals that you are stepping into growth. If you wait for them to disappear, you will never move. But if you learn to carry them with you, to act while they scream in your ear, you will discover a strength you never knew you had. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement in spite of it. And the moment you prove to yourself that you can do something scared, you begin to unlock a new level of power inside you. Overthinking is one of the greatest traps people fall into. You sit there replaying every possibility, predicting every outcome, and in the end, you do nothing. It feels like planning, but it is really just delay in disguise. You don't need to know the whole path before you start walking. You don't need to see the entire staircase before you take the first step. Life reveals itself as you move. Clarity comes from action, not from endless thinking. The fastest way to silence the noise in your head is to do something small. Something so small your brain cannot make it a threat. Write one sentence. Make one phone call. Do one push-up. The mind wants comfort. It will tell you to stay where you are. It will convince you that later is safer, but later is the enemy. Later becomes next week, next month, next year. Later becomes never. And then you find yourself living the same day over and over again, trapped in a cycle of regret. The only way out is to act before your mind talks you out of it. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to decide that today matters, that this moment will not slip away. Discipline is not built in grand moments. It is built in the small, unglamorous decisions you make every day. Getting up when you don't want to. Finishing the task when you feel tired. Saying no to distractions when it would be easier to give in. These little battles are where your character is forged. And the more often you win them, the stronger you become. You stop being a prisoner to feelings and you start living by decisions, because feelings are temporary but regret lasts much longer. Every action you take when you don't feel like it plants a seed inside you. At first it may feel insignificant, but over time, those seeds grow into trust, resilience, and confidence. You start to see yourself differently. You begin to identify as someone who moves, someone who follows through, someone who doesn't let fear or laziness decide their future. That shift in identity is powerful, because once you believe you are that kind of person, your actions begin to align automatically. This is how transformation happens, not through giant leaps, not through waiting for inspiration, but through small, consistent acts of courage. Each day you prove something to yourself. Each day you choose action over avoidance, and each day you move a little closer to the life you want. Progress is not about speed. It is about direction. And as long as you keep moving forward, even slowly, you are winning. So stop waiting. Stop planning endlessly. Stop telling yourself the same story about how you'll begin tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lie you tell yourself to feel better today. The truth is that the only time you have is now. And if you don't use it, it slips away forever. The clock doesn't pause for your hesitation. The world doesn't stop spinning until you feel ready. Time moves whether you act or not. The difference is that when you act, you move with it. You grow with it. You build something while the days pass. But when you don't act, you are left behind. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed before. It doesn't matter how many promises you've broken to yourself in the past. What matters is what you decide to do right now. You can reset at any moment. You can begin again today. You don't need a new year, a new month, or a perfect start. All you need is the courage to take one step today. And once you take it, you will feel a shift. You will realize that the power has been in your hands all along. Action is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows stronger with use. The first time you force yourself to do something you don't feel like doing, it feels heavy, uncomfortable, almost impossible. But the second time it gets a little easier. The third time you recognize the pattern, and by the 10th time, you begin to expect that resistance and push through it almost automatically. This is how discipline is built, not through one massive act of willpower, but through repeated practice. Each time you overcome hesitation, you train your brain to see action as normal, not as something extraordinary. And the more normal it feels, the more consistent you become. People often think discipline is about being tough all the time, about never feeling weak, never doubting, never struggling. But the truth is, discipline is built in weakness. It is forged in those exact moments when you feel like doing nothing, when your body says stay in bed, when your mind says it's too late, when your heart says maybe tomorrow. That is when discipline has the chance to grow. If you avoid those moments, you avoid the very training that makes you strong. But if you embrace them, if you act anyway, you become the kind of person who is unstoppable. Because once you know you can move without motivation, there is nothing that can hold you back. Think about how many dreams have died because of hesitation, not because the person wasn't capable, not because they didn't have the skill, but simply because they didn't act. They waited too long, they thought too much, they let fear decide. Opportunities come and go, and the people who catch them are the ones who move quickly. They don't wait until they feel like it. They don't wait until everything is clear. They take the step, they stumble forward, and they figure it out on the way. That is how progress is made, in real time, not in endless thought. Your mind will always try to trick you. It will say, let's just wait a little longer. Let's think this through one more time. Let's get more advice, more research, more preparation. But underneath those thoughts is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of discomfort. And here's the secret. The fear doesn't go away when you wait. It only grows stronger. The longer you delay, the bigger the fear becomes in your imagination. But the moment you act, you cut it down to size. You realize it wasn't as bad as you thought. You realize you are stronger than you imagined. That is why speed matters. Not reckless speed, not rushing without thought, but quick action in the moments that matter. Because hesitation is like quicksand. The longer you stand in it, the harder it becomes to escape. But if you move quickly, if you step forward before doubt takes over, you stay free. You keep your momentum. You keep your power. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is learning to do things before your emotions are ready. Wake up and move before your brain starts negotiating with the alarm. Make the call before you overthink every word you'll say. Start the project before you figured out every detail. Because once you begin, the resistance weakens. Your emotions start to catch up with your actions. You feel more awake after you get up. You feel more confident after you've started speaking. You feel more capable after you've taken the first step. This is the magic of action. It transforms how you feel. But you only experience that transformation if you push through the discomfort first. It's easy to tell yourself you'll act when you're motivated, but motivation is unreliable. Motivation is not the spark that starts the fire. It is the heat that builds after the fire is already burning. If you wait for motivation, you will wait forever. But if you act, motivation follows. Action first, emotion second, that is the rule. Once you accept it, you stop being controlled by feelings and start living by decisions. You may look at others and think they have more willpower, more talent, more luck. But most of the time, they simply act faster than you. They don't give themselves the luxury of delay. They don't give doubt time to grow roots. They seize the moment before it slips away. And because they do that over and over, they build momentum that carries them forward. What looks like talent is often just the habit of consistent action. What looks like confidence is often just the result of repeated practice. The cost of hesitation is higher than you realize. Every time you delay, you lose a little more trust in yourself. You tell yourself you'll do it later, but later never comes. And when you break your own promises often enough, you stop believing in your own words. That loss of self-belief is dangerous. It makes you weaker. It makes you second-guess yourself in every area of life. But the good news is that you can rebuild it, one action at a time. Each time you follow through, even in something small, you earn back your own respect. And that respect compounds, turning into real confidence. Confidence doesn't come from compliments. It doesn't come from people clapping for you. It doesn't come from external rewards. True confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, from knowing deep inside that you can trust yourself to do what you said you'd do. And the only way to build that trust is through action. Not talking, not planning, not waiting, doing. Overthinking is a silent killer of progress. It makes you feel like you're being productive, but really you're just spinning in circles. You can spend hours analyzing a decision, playing out every possible scenario, and in the end, nothing changes. The truth is, clarity is not found in thought alone. It is created through movement. When you act, you get feedback. You see what works and what doesn't. You adjust and improve. That process gives you more clarity than 1,000 hours of thinking ever could. If you're overwhelmed, the solution is not to think harder. It is to shrink the task. Break it down until it's small enough to act on right now. Want to start exercising? Don't worry about an hour at the gym. Start with a 10-minute walk. Want to write a book? Don't worry about the whole manuscript. Start with 1 page today. Want to launch a business? Don't worry about the entire plan. Start by making 1 call, setting up 1 step. Small actions bypass the resistance in your brain. They feel doable, and once you start, momentum grows. The danger of waiting is that life doesn't pause for you. Time moves whether you act or not. Opportunities don't freeze until you're ready. While you wait, someone else is moving forward. While you hesitate, someone else is building momentum. And before you know it, the chance you had is gone. Not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't move when it mattered. This is why you must stop telling yourself stories about timing. There is no perfect time. There is only now. If you learn to act now, you take back your power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the author of your own story. And every time you act now, you carve a new identity. You become the kind of person who moves, who doesn't hesitate, who gets things done. That identity will carry you further than motivation ever could. Life is not about comfort, it's about growth. And growth is uncomfortable. That discomfort you feel when you push yourself, that resistance that rises when you try something new, that fear that whispers in your mind, that is the signal that you are growing. If you avoid it, you avoid growth. But if you embrace it, if you lean into it, you become stronger than you were yesterday. Every small victory compounds into something greater. And when you look back months or years from now, you won't remember the fear you felt in the moment. You won't remember the excuses. What you will remember is the progress you made, the strength you built, and the life you created because you chose action. Most people underestimate the power of small actions. They think transformation has to come from something dramatic, a huge leap, a sudden burst of inspiration. But the truth is, lives are built in the tiny daily decisions. Do you pick up the phone or leave it for later? Do you read 1 page or tell yourself you'll start tomorrow? Do you speak up or stay silent? These choices may feel small in the moment, but they shape who you become. Because every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. If you keep voting for hesitation, procrastination, and fear, then over time, you become the person who never moves, who always waits. But if you keep voting for courage, discipline, and action, even in small ways, then over time, you build the identity of someone unstoppable. That is why consistency matters more than intensity. A small action repeated daily beats a massive effort done once in a while. Because consistency creates identity, and identity lasts longer than bursts of energy. Think about water dripping on stone. 1 drop seems meaningless, but drip after drip, day after day, it carves into the rock. That is the power of consistency. It doesn't look dramatic, it doesn't look impressive, but it changes things at their core. The same happens in your life. Every time you take action, even when it feels insignificant, you are carving strength into your character. Over time, that strength becomes unshakable. The biggest obstacle is not difficulty, it is distraction. We live in a world full of noise. Notifications, messages, updates, endless entertainment. Your attention is under attack every day, and if you don't guard it, your focus will scatter into 1,000 pieces. You won't have the mental energy to act on what matters, because it will all be drained by meaningless things. That is why discipline in the modern world is not just about doing the hard work. It's also about protecting your attention, saying no to distractions, cutting out the noise, creating space to move forward. Ask yourself, how much of your hesitation comes not from fear but from distraction? How many times have you delayed action simply because you got lost scrolling? Or because you let your focus be stolen by things that don't matter? You don't lack ability. You don't lack potential. What you lack is focus time. And the solution is simple. Guard your attention as if your life depends on it, because it does. Distraction is easy. Focus is rare. And what is rare becomes valuable. If you can train yourself to focus, to sit down and do what matters without letting the world pull you away, you will rise above most people. Because while they waste their time on noise, you will be building something real. And that edge compounds. Every hour of focus puts you further ahead. Every day of action adds up. Every year of consistency creates a life others will call extraordinary. But don't mistake simplicity for ease. Taking action sounds simple, but it is not easy. If it were, everyone would do it. The resistance you feel is real, and it will always be there. You can't eliminate it, but you can learn to move through it. That is the secret. Not waiting for resistance to disappear, but acting even when it's present. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Talkers from achievers, and excuses from results. Fear will whisper in your ear. What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you're not ready? And here is the truth, you will fail. People might laugh. You will not always be ready. But failure is not the end, it is the beginning of growth. Every failure carries a lesson. Every stumble carries a seed of improvement. If you embrace that, failure loses its power to paralyze you. It becomes just another step forward. Think of failure as tuition. You are paying for the lessons that will make you stronger. No one expects to become a doctor without years of study, exams, mistakes, and practice. Why should success in life be any different? The failures are not proof that you're not capable. They are proof that you are in the game, that you are learning, that you are building. The only real failure is refusing to try. Rejection works the same way. Many people hesitate because they fear hearing no. They fear the judgment of others, the disapproval, the criticism. But rejection is not death. It is redirection. Every no brings you closer to the right yes. Every door that closes forces you to knock on another. And often that other door is the one that leads you to where you were meant to go. If you allow rejection to break you, you stop too early. But if you use rejection as fuel, you keep moving until you find the path that was meant for you. The truth is, hesitation doesn't protect you from failure or rejection. It only guarantees regret. When you hesitate, you save yourself from temporary discomfort, but you chain yourself to long-term disappointment. Because you'll always wonder what could have happened if you had acted. Regret is heavier than failure. Regret is permanent. Failure passes, lessons remain, but regret lingers forever. That is why action, even imperfect action, is always better than waiting. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement in the presence of fear. If you wait until you feel fearless, you'll never act. Fear is not the signal to stop. It is the signal that you're on the edge of growth. When you feel fear, that's when you know you're about to enter new territory, to push beyond your limits, to expand. That is the moment to lean in, not pull back. Every person you admire, every success story you look up to, every leader, artist, athlete, or creator, they all felt fear. They all doubted themselves. They all hesitated. The difference is that they moved anyway. They built the habit of acting despite the voice in their head. And because of that, they built lives worth remembering. You can do the same, but only if you stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start acting with what you have, where you are right now. Perfection is another trap. Many hesitate because they want everything to be flawless before they begin. They want the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect version. But perfection is impossible. It's an illusion that keeps you stuck. Progress beats perfection every single time. An imperfect step forward brings results. A perfect plan stuck in your head brings nothing. Don't aim to be flawless, aim to be moving. Because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates results. One small win creates energy for the next. One step builds confidence for the next. And soon what once felt impossible becomes normal. What once felt terrifying becomes routine. That is the power of compounding action. What starts small grows into something massive. Not because of one huge effort, but because of consistent forward motion. If you want to change your life, don't wait for a breakthrough moment. Create breakthrough habits. Do one uncomfortable thing every day. Make one decision quicker than you normally would. Push through one hesitation. Each day add a drop, and over time those drops will flood your life with strength. Remember this, hesitation is a habit, but so is action. You get to choose which one you practice. If you practice hesitation, it will grow automatic. Your brain will learn to delay, to stall, to avoid. But if you practice action, that too becomes automatic. You will train yourself to move before doubt has a chance to grab hold. And that habit will change everything. Action is freedom. It frees you from overthinking, from fear, from regret. Every time you move, you cut through the chains of hesitation. Every time you act, you prove to yourself that you are capable. And that proof, repeated again and again, builds a life where you no longer ask, "Can I?" but instead declare, "I will." The human brain loves comfort. It will always try to pull you back to what feels safe, familiar, and easy. That's why you hesitate. Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because your brain is designed to protect you from discomfort. But here's the paradox. The very thing your brain is trying to protect you from is the thing that makes you grow. Comfort keeps you alive, but discomfort makes you alive. If you always stay safe, you never expand. If you always stay comfortable, you never discover what you're truly capable of. Growth requires risk. It requires stepping into the unknown. Not because you're guaranteed success, but because the process itself transforms you. The action changes you regardless of the outcome. Even if you fail, you become someone stronger than before. That's why action is never wasted. No step is pointless. Every move you make adds to your character, your skill, your resilience. People often wait for clarity before they act, but true clarity comes after action. You don't learn the path by staring at the road. You learn it by walking. You don't discover your strength by thinking about challenges. You discover it by facing them. Life is designed to reveal itself through movement. The answers don't come while you're standing still. They arrive when you take the next step. Think of a sailor navigating the sea. They don't wait until they can see the entire ocean before setting sail. They move with the winds they have, adjust their sails as they go, and discover new lands by daring to leave the shore. Your life works the same way. The map is revealed step by step, but only if you have the courage to move. If you keep waiting for the whole plan to appear, you'll never leave the harbor. Action is not about rushing blindly, it's about trusting that movement itself creates direction. Each step forward gives you more information, more perspective, more opportunities. And from there you can adjust. Standing still gives you nothing but doubt. Moving forward gives you data, and with that data you grow wiser. You may think you're waiting for the right time, but in reality time is passing anyway. Days, weeks, months, they slip away while you hesitate. And one day you'll wake up and realize you've been standing still for years. The best way to avoid that regret is to act today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because today is the only time you ever truly have. Imagine what your life could look like 1 year from now if you started today. Imagine the skills you could build, the progress you could make, the confidence you could grow. 1 year of small, consistent action could transform everything. But if you keep waiting, 1 year from now you'll be in the same place, only with more regret. The time will pass either way. The question is, will you use it or waste it? Your future is shaped by invisible choices. The decision to take action now or delay until later might not feel like much, but it creates a ripple that changes everything, because each action builds momentum, and each delay builds inertia. One makes you stronger, the other keeps you stuck. Which one you feed today determines who you become tomorrow. When you act, you also inspire others. You may not realize it, but people are watching you, friends, family, colleagues. Your courage gives them permission to be courageous too. Your movement shows them that it's possible to rise above fear. You don't just change your life by acting. You create a ripple that can transform the lives of those around you. That is the hidden power of action. It multiplies beyond you. The world doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards those who dare to move, who dare to try, who dare to take risks. Look at history, at the people who made a difference. They weren't the ones who waited until everything was certain. They were the ones who stepped into the unknown, who acted with faith, who kept moving even when others doubted them. That same courage lives inside you. It doesn't belong to the few. It belongs to anyone willing to claim it. When you act, you don't just build results, you build identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop saying, "When I'm the kind of person who wishes," and start saying, "I'm the kind of person who does." That shift is powerful, because once your identity changes, your actions follow automatically. You no longer have to push yourself as hard, because movement becomes who you are, not just what you do. There's another truth about hesitation. It makes things harder, not easier. The longer you wait, the heavier the task feels. A small action left undone grows into a mountain in your mind. But the moment you start, the mountain shrinks. Action releases the weight that hesitation piles on your shoulders. That's why starting is often the hardest part. Once you begin, everything else becomes lighter. Procrastination is not laziness, it is fear dressed in delay. You don't avoid the task because you can't do it. You avoid it because you're afraid of how it will feel, afraid it will be uncomfortable, difficult, imperfect. But once you see procrastination for what it really is, you can beat it. Not by thinking, not by planning, but by starting. Even 2 minutes of action can break the cycle. Once you're in motion, it's much easier to stay in motion. This is why habits are so powerful. Habits remove the need for constant decision-making. They make action automatic. When brushing your teeth is a habit, you don't debate whether to do it. You just do it. Imagine if exercise, reading, working, learning, and creating became the same way. No debate, no hesitation, no drama, just automatic action. That is what habits create, and they are built the same way. By starting small, repeating daily, and never giving up. The key is to lower the barrier to entry. Don't aim for perfection at the start. Aim for consistency. Do 1 push-up, 1 page, 1 phone call, 1 step. Build the habit of showing up. Once the habit is formed, you can increase the intensity. But without the habit, intensity doesn't last. This is where most people go wrong. They start big, burn out, and quit. But if you start small, you build a foundation that lasts. You may not see the results immediately, and that's okay. Action plants seeds. Some grow quickly, others take time. But if you keep planting, you will eventually see the harvest. The danger is in planting once, seeing nothing, and giving up. Success doesn't come to those who plant and wait. It comes to those who plant, water, and persist. Your actions today are seeds for your future. Don't stop planting just because the results aren't visible yet. Patience and persistence are the companions of action. Without patience, you give up too soon. Without persistence, you stop too early. But with both, you create results that others will call luck. What looks like luck is often the invisible result of years of action. Persistence and patience. Trust the process. Keep moving. The results will come. And even when they do, don't stop. Because action is not just about reaching a goal, it's about becoming a person who keeps growing. The joy is not only in the destination, it is in the movement, the momentum, the growth along the way. When you learn to love the process of action, you never run out of fuel. Every day becomes an opportunity, not a burden. Every challenge becomes a chance to rise, not a reason to quit. Life rewards those who act, not because acting guarantees success, but because acting guarantees growth. And growth always leads to opportunities. The stronger you become, the more capable you become, the more doors open for you. Action attracts life. Hesitation repels it. If you want a bigger life, you must live bigger actions. Most people live in the waiting room of life. They sit, they hope, they prepare endlessly, but they never walk through the door. They tell themselves they'll start when the time is right, but the time never feels right. Life is not waiting for you to be ready. It is moving forward with or without you. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to catch up. The secret is not to wait for readiness, but to create it through action. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a result. You become ready by acting, by practicing, by failing, by adjusting. Nobody was born ready to lead, to create, to succeed. They became ready by starting before they felt ready. That is the truth most people miss. If you wait until you feel confident, you'll never move. Confidence is not the fuel. It is the reward. You act first, and confidence grows as a result. Think about a child learning to walk. They don't wait until they're confident in their balance. They take shaky steps, they fall, they cry, and they try again. And through those messy, imperfect attempts, they learn. If a child refused to walk until they were certain they wouldn't fall, they'd never take a step. Yet adults do this all the time with their dreams. They want certainty before they begin. They want to guarantee success before they risk failure. But that's not how growth works. You must be willing to stumble forward. Fear will always whisper excuses. It's not the right time. You're not skilled enough. You'll embarrass yourself. People will judge. But here's what fear never tells you. People aren't thinking about you as much as you imagine. Everyone is too focused on their own worries, their own insecurities, their own lives. The spotlight you think is on you doesn't exist. Most people are too busy with themselves to care whether you stumble. And those who do notice, they'll forget faster than you think. Fear exaggerates the cost of action while hiding the cost of inaction. The cost of inaction is invisible but enormous. You don't feel it right away, but it accumulates. It shows up in missed opportunities, lost years, fading dreams. It shows up when you look back and wonder where the time went. And nothing stings more than realizing you could have been further ahead if only you had acted when you had the chance. That's why hesitation is so dangerous. It robs you quietly, slowly, until one day you realize how much you've lost. But there's another truth. It's never too late to act. You may not be able to change yesterday, but you can always change today. And changing today changes tomorrow. Many people waste even more time regretting the past instead of using the present. Don't fall into that trap. The past is not your prison, it is your lesson. Learn from it and then move forward. Because as long as you are breathing, you can act. And as long as you can act, you can change your story. Every time you take action, you create momentum. Momentum is the hidden force that makes everything easier. At first, it takes effort to push. It feels heavy, difficult, awkward. But once you're in motion, everything becomes smoother. That's why starting is the hardest part. Because once you've started, staying in motion is much easier than beginning from zero again. Momentum is your friend, but you must earn it by pushing through the first resistance. Imagine rolling a heavy boulder. At first, it doesn't move at all. You push with all your strength and still it barely shifts. But eventually it starts to roll. Slowly at first, then faster, then with less effort. Life works the same way. Most people give up before the momentum comes. They push a little, see no result, and stop. But those who keep pushing discover that once momentum builds, success begins to feel almost effortless. That's the reward of persistence. Momentum carries you forward. But momentum doesn't last forever on its own. If you stop moving, you lose it. That's why consistency is more important than intensity. A short burst of effort followed by weeks of hesitation won't carry you far. But steady, consistent action, even small, keeps the wheel turning. Over time, consistency outpaces everything else. It's not about how hard you work once, it's about how often you show up. The world often celebrates dramatic breakthroughs, overnight successes, sudden victories. But behind every breakthrough is years of consistent and visible action. The overnight success was years in the making. The dramatic moment was built on countless quiet steps no one saw. Don't be fooled by appearances. Don't envy results you're not willing to match with consistent action. Success is built in silence and revealed in time. When you hesitate, you also train your brain to distrust you. You say you'll do something, but then you don't. You make promises to yourself, but you break them. Over time, your self-belief erodes. You start to think, maybe I'm not the kind of person who follows through. That thought is poison. It keeps you weak, keeps you doubting, keeps you trapped. The only antidote is action. Every time you follow through, even on something small, you rebuild that trust. And the more trust you build, the stronger your confidence becomes. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not pretending you're perfect or pretending you never fail. True confidence is quiet. It's the calm belief that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. And that belief only comes from experience. Experience gained through action. You don't become confident by waiting for it. You become confident by acting without it. Again and again, until you no longer doubt yourself. Remember this, doubt grows in silence. The more you wait, the louder doubt becomes. But action silences doubt. You don't think your way into confidence, you act your way into it. That's why courage is so powerful. Not because it eliminates fear, but because it proves you can move despite fear. Each act of courage weakens the grip of hesitation. Each act of courage makes the next one easier. And courage is contagious. When you act bravely, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage becomes a spark for someone else's fire. You may never know who is watching, who is silently gathering strength from your example. But your action matters beyond you. It creates ripples you may never see, changing lives in ways you can't measure. That is the hidden power of your choices. They don't just shape your future. They shape the future of others. When you hesitate, you miss more than opportunities, you miss transformation. Every action changes you. Every step forward adds to your identity. The more you act, the more capable you become. The more you hesitate, the more powerless you feel. That's why hesitation is dangerous. It shrinks you. It keeps you smaller than you are meant to be. But action expands you. It shows you the strength you didn't know you had. It reveals the courage you thought you lacked. It unlocks the potential that hesitation kept hidden. The truth is, you already have what you need to begin. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need everything to be perfect. You just need to start. The tools will come, the skills will come, the clarity will come, but only if you act. Waiting for more before you start is like waiting to swim until you've mastered the ocean. You learn by stepping into the water, not by standing on the shore. And here's the ultimate truth. Hesitation may feel safe, but it is the riskiest choice of all. Because life is short. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Every day you hesitate is a day gone forever. Every dream you delay is a dream that may never be lived. Acting carries risk, yes, but not acting carries certainty. The certainty of regret, the certainty of a smaller life, the certainty of wondering what if until it's too late. Action is the only antidote. It's the only way to beat fear, doubt, procrastination, and regret. Every time you act, you take back your power. Every time you move, you remind yourself that you are alive, capable, and worthy. And the more you do it, the freer you become.